Cranial Media. Hey, Russ Maines here from Cranial Media. Believe it or not, New Mexico is not a separate country. It is a state in the United States. Some people still think it's part of Mexico, but it is not. This first episode on New Mexico is America, episode 1 is The Biggest Guns in the West. Don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you click right down here where it says subscribe if you want to know more about cool stuff and music and things. And thanks for following me. Between the Chihuahuan Desert and the Sangre de Cristo Mountains is Nuevo Mexico. New Mexico is a southwestern U.S. state, even though many Americans still believe it is Mexico. The capital, Santa Fe, was founded in 1610, which means it was a Spanish colony before the United States was even born. Santa Fe today is now known for its upscale spas and Spanish colonial architecture. It is the most populous northern city in New Mexico. It is also home to a vibrant art scene as well as the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum featuring the artist's iconic New Mexican landscape paintings. And it's home to the open-air Santa Fe Opera. What makes Santa Fe so cool is Zozobra, the Burning Man festival held every year around October. Albuquerque, which is about an hour south drive, is the state's most populous city and occupies land in the center of the state. It was founded in 1706 and is rumored to be named after the Latin Albus Circes, or white oak, after the cork oaks in the region by Francisco Cuervo y Valdez. However, like most American history, there are other theories about how the town got its name. Today, Albuquerque is more famous for movies and television such as Breaking Bad and The Avengers, and the Balloon Fiesta, which the locals call the Balloon Fiasco. Las Cruces, or the City of the Crosses, is near the southernmost area of New Mexico on a floodplain of the Rio Grande and was claimed by Juan de Onate in 1598. Las Cruces, while more famous for Hatch Green Chili and the White Sands Missile Range, now has a spaceport called Virgin Galactic, which is the first company to offer suborbital space flights. It is no secret that in a small area just between Albuquerque and Las Cruces is where the first atomic device was detonated. This area is called the Trinity Site. It is approximately 15 miles south of a small town called Socorro. And was detonated on July 16, 1945, and there's a monument built to commemorate the event 20 years later. I'm going to come back to Socorro, but just hold on to that. Now, the bomb was devised and built at Los Alamos National Laboratory just west of Santa Fe. Now, Sandia National Lab was developed later to support the non-nuclear aspects of the nuclear weapons business in Albuquerque at Kirtland Air Force Base, which was called Oxnard Field at the time. So, Sandia was known as the Z Division. And today, the Z still means something. For example, there's a device over at Sandia known as the Z Machine. And the Z Machine essentially is an electromagnetic launcher. It launches little disks of material at very high velocities. And they use this information to understand high strain rate effects or very high rate impact effects like asteroids. Well, that's all great, but, so what? Well, while all this history is well known, there are some secrets that New Mexico doesn't give up that easily. For example, if you ask yourself one question, what was it that Sandia National Labs did before the Z Machine was invented? What technology did they use before using an electromagnetic launcher? Well, oddly enough, New Mexico has a hidden history and a technology that goes back to how the West was won. Guns. Very, very big guns. And the biggest guns in the West, some of the biggest guns in the world. And they were developed right here in New Mexico. Why? Well, during the Second World War, the Allies discovered that German guns, especially the 88mm, were far superior to the United States guns. And even though the war was won by other means, far-sighted military officers realized that there was a technology gap And what they wanted to do was to close that gap, and they did that by developing a technology that could launch projectiles over 8,000 feet per second. The solution was a two-stage light gas gun. And guess where it was developed? That's right, it was developed in Socorro, that small town about an hour's drive south of Albuquerque, at a college known as New Mexico Tech. Well, at the time it was known as New Mexico Institute of Mining and Technology, but everybody calls it New Mexico Tech. You mention New Mexico Tech, everybody knows where it is. So the two-stage light gas gun was designed by a small group of physicists at New Mexico Tech under the watchful eye of Dr. John Workman. Now, John Workman was the president of the school at the time in the 1940s. So his group developed this gun. The first stage of the gun uses gunpowder to accelerate a clamshell-faced piston into a section of the gun called a pump tube. The pump tube contains some kind of light gas like hydrogen or helium. So as the piston traverses the pump tube, the diameter is shrinked and it compresses the gas at very, very high pressures. And since the gas is really light, that means it also expands more rapidly than any other gases because, well, there's very little inertia. So as the pressure increases to a certain extent, the projectile, which sits in the second part of the gun, releases. And the velocities that they can achieve are over 23,000 feet per second. So, today, guns like this are used across the globe to simulate meteor and asteroid collisions, or they're also used in other areas of science like shock physics. But they were developed here in New Mexico at New Mexico Tech, one of the only colleges in the United States that still has a degree in explosives engineering. Now that is a secret of New Mexico. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you on the flip side. If you like this content and want to see more, don't forget to subscribe and tell me what it is that you want to see, and we'll make a video for you. This is Russ Main signing off of Cranial Media. Thanks.